Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining me for today's review, everybody. And today we got a special review here. I'm doing a 2-for-1 special today. We are going to review the Old Carter American Batch 9 and the Old Carter American Batch 10. It just felt right to do this as one video rather than two distinct videos. And man, there's a difference between these two. I'm excited to taste these again. I have never tasted these head to head in the manner that I'm going to do today. And after the head to head, we are going to go into the official scores. So we will see if my tasting notes at the end of this, at the head of the head to head, are going to agree with the official scores. That is kind of scary. If you've watched the channel recently here, sometimes we do things blind and then we show the scores and things go terribly wrong. But let's see what happens today. Either way, I'm getting to drink some Old Carter American whiskey. I'm feeling really good about myself. And I am glad that you got to join me for the experience to inform you if this is something that you should buy or not. And if you have the chance to buy one of these batches, which one should you buy? Thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. I'm pouring the batch 10 here. I just poured the batch 9 as well. In today's Glens, I got a Mash and Journey Glen. And this one has the batch 9. And then I have a Bourbon Wrench Glen. And this one has batch 10. So we got the two batches there. I am going to let those simmer for just a moment. We will go through the stats on these and let those air out a bit. So first, starting with batch 9. So these are Old Carter American whiskeys. Each of these batches typically ranges between 2,000, 3,000 bottles. MSRP on these is really expensive. Each of these cost $239. The proof on these on batch 9 is 132.8, and the proof on batch 10 is 131.8. So right around the same range. Now, for all intents and purposes on these are Indiana light whiskey. If you have followed the channel in the past, we have done videos on light whiskeys before. Light whiskeys can be really, really good. At a minimum, they are just delicious dessert flavors, just over the top sweetness. When you do get into really good blends or combinations like we're about to have here, they can bring a whole realm of flavors as well. So that is what the Old Carter American whiskeys are. So if you see American, we are talking more towards the light whiskeys. There is also a Old Carter bourbon and an Old Carter rye. The Old Carter rye batch 10 I did a review on a few weeks ago, and that is my rye of the year so far. Now, each of these I got from my cousin in Kentucky who was able to pick these up. I am typically never lucky enough to find these. I have found these in a few occasions in my life. The one notable one I would say is I did buy one of these from the Party Source last year. I brought it to Whiskey Weekend and had a really fun moment with it. And I do recommend, if you have a moment that you can have with a whiskey, regardless of its price, take the moment and seize it. So in this particular moment, we had a whiskey wheel at Whiskey Weekend. The way that it worked is Matt Porter from ADHD Whiskey was going through a blind flight, and in different rooms, all the hotels, either hosted by the Bourbon Junkies, I believe it's Bourbon Night had one as well. They were hosting different rooms, and the podcast was walking around with a whiskey wheel with unicorns on it. And after the tasting, you get to spin the wheel, and that's the bottle that you get. And my room spun the wheel. It came up on an old Carter American. I think it was batch 4, if I'm remembering correctly. It might have been batch 6. Either way, it was an even number. The They didn't have it at the time. Either way, Grease told us to spin the wheel again. So we spun the wheel again, and on that one, we came up with the E.H. Taylor Warehouse Tornado one, whichever one that is. Is the Warehouse C Tornado? Now I'm coming up blank on that. But either way, that's the one that we got. We opened up that bottle, and the whole room drank it on the spot. But I felt bad because we came up with the old Carter that they said they didn't have. Maybe someone else got it, but I had it in the room. So I asked Matt to like keep everybody in the room, stall everybody. I ran up to my hotel room. I literally did run across the campus. I grabbed the bottle, I brought it down, we popped it on the spot, and we all enjoyed the American Carter American whiskey together. And then the bottle was gone. I mean, we just killed it in like 15 minutes between all the people that were in the room. It was a quick kill. But hey, very expensive. Also a great memory for everyone that was in that room. Well worth the price to me. So these are the first American whiskeys that I've gotten to own since that moment. And obviously, with that particular bottle, I didn't have a chance to sit down and review it. I had a sip of it. I had like an ounce and a half of it. So let's go through these together, and then I'm going to have some more thoughts on light whiskeys at the end of the video. Now, I realized to this point, because my dang story was so long, I haven't even gotten to the tasting yet, and we're going to go through two pours. So I will keep this as short as I can, but we are going to go through batch 9 and batch 10. And at the end, if you do have the chance to buy either one of these, this might persuade you on which one to concentrate on if you were that lucky. Well, thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. We're going to kick things off with batch 9, go through the nose and go through the palate. Cheers. Oh man, that is so good. So the thing that does come across on these, and I get it from quite a bit of the MGP Indiana light whiskey. Oh, delicious honey note, and it's pretty much honey soaked graham crackers. Oh, I love that. There's also some good spice on this one, cinnamon, brown sugar. But for the most part, we are going to lean into some very desserty syrups. Butterscotch, in particular, is the one that I think of. There is some vanilla extract in here as well. Oh man. Now, the age on these, I'd be surprised if these, I mean, this is a blend. I'd be surprised if these aren't 12 years, 14, 15-year casks. It comes across that way as an oak. Typically, the light whiskeys are aged in used barrels, so the oak isn't as prominent as it would be in a new barrel when it comes to some of the bourbons that are that age, but you can tell when something is high aged. The last thing that I'm going to grapple on a little bit here is going to be essentially a powdered sugar note uh, with some blueberries. So, blueberry covered in powdered sugar, essentially on a funnel cake or elephant ears, depending on the region that you're in. And fruit wise, I lean towards the blueberries. I could also go with a hint of pear. It's a brighter fruit, and I think it can lean both ways, just depending on the angle that you approach it. Let's get into the taste. Hmm. Oh man, I'll try to accelerate this a little bit. The mouth feel on these is amazing. You even get it on the side of your tongue when it comes to the finish here. It coats everywhere. And front of the palate, mid palate, we are talking about lots of honey, cinnamon, brown sugar, graham cracker, butterscotch again. Gosh, hints of chocolate. The oak comes through, and even those blueberries come through. I'm still going with those blueberries. Let's go into the finish on this one. Finish is essentially the same as mid palate. I think those notes are pretty darn consistent. Man, this one has a gear. Oh man, that accelerates. It's really, really good. You can see it just stops me in my tracks. But the flavors are mostly the same as mid palate of what I just described. There is a vanilla bomb in the middle of this. That is just ultimately the thing that I hesitate on. And kind of like a cinnamon sugar melted butter sensation. Like if you were to take a bowl and throw a stick of butter, cover it in sugar and cinnamon, and just let it melt, and then take a shot of it, essentially. That sounds heartache inducing, but that's essentially what I'm talking about on the finish, and those flavors just hang. Oh man. Batch 9. Batch nine's real good. Let me get a quick rinse out here. We'll go to batch 10. So now we're going to go into batch 10. As a reminder, batch 10 is in the bourbon wrench class. The proof points on both of these are very similar. And once again, they're both American whiskeys, both light whiskey blends. Maybe they're blending some bourbons in it. I don't know necessarily. But essentially, light whiskey is going to be the base of these things. Oh, let's go through the nose first. Oh, these are different. That's interesting. This one has more of a marshmallow fluff on the nose. I wasn't getting that off of batch 9, but is now sticking out pretty predominant, especially since I am trying these side by side. There is a bit of sweet oak. The powdered sugar covered blueberries is consistent. Vanilla extract, which I said on the prior one. The fruits on this one, though, I think I said pear on the other one. This one's more lemon leaning, maybe lemon zest. With a hmm, essentially one of those cinnamon sugar glazed donuts. That's a lot of notes there. You are going to have diabetes by the end of this video, though, if you haven't noticed. Man, I'm going to really stick to my score after that sip. That sip did not land like batch 9 lands. Spoiler alert. All right, I'm going to go one more sip. We're going to go through the notes. So, just like batch 9, I mean, the mouth feel on these, both of them, is impeccable. I mean, it is amazing how oily, greasy, viscous, whatever descriptors you want to use. I mean, this one in particular, it's running down the sides of my mouth and it's even running underneath my tongue. And I can just feel it there, coating everything that's possible and providing flavor all at the same time. The flavors, once again, burnt brown sugar, a lemon zest, cinnamon allspice. This one, I guess, is more spice leaning than the other one was. The other one had a lot of sweetness up front. Even mid palate, it's almost a spicy molasses. So it's very thick and syrupy. But I said molasses versus maybe butterscotch that I said on batch 9. A lot of that's pretty consistent all throughout. Yeah, cinnamon again. Oh, lots of cinnamon, lots of spices. Man. And then when we go into the finish, the oak is a bit more prominent, a bit more astringent even, but not necessarily off-putting. and it ends with chocolate. So the other one had the second gear that kicked in. This one just kind of ends with a nice chocolate. But it just ends, comparatively speaking. So I think that kind of gives a little bit away. As I'm going through these, let me go through batch nine one more time. We'll see if I think anything different of this as I pull up the scores. But ultimately, I do see a big chasm between these two. And maybe you felt that as I was describing them. Batch nine has an extra gear on it, it has an extra layer of sweetness on it. Batch 10 is good, but batch 9 is something more special, I guess is the way to word that. So when it comes to the official scores, on the site, we do break things down in a 3-tier scoring system. We have a whole bunch of flavor attributes, experience attributes, and value. You can see how these two compare, and man, I kind of really stand by it now. In the head to head, I think I was actually a bit conflicted about batch 10 score going into this, but now that I did them head to head, I'm pretty fine with this. I think that's an appropriate gap between these two. And you can see it now. If you have the choice between batch 9 or batch 10, hey, pick batch 9. But batch 9, the flavors on this thing are really what elevated it over batch 10. The experience scores are very similar. When I'm talking about an experience score, that's the mouth feel, that's the depth of flavors, that's the length of finish. It got a little bit of a bump there on batch 9, but it's really the flavors in batch 9 that does it. And that's just how enjoyable it was, from the nose to the front of the palate all the way to the finish. Oh man, batch 9 is really something special. Now, when it comes to the value score, the value score is all about the price paid. Each of these cost $239. Luckily, I bought these a long time ago, so I can just enjoy them now, I suppose. But we are talking about $500 worth of whiskey, which both of them combined. So it's going to lose points on the value, even if it brings something really good. So gave a 8 out of 10 on batch 9, gave a 6 out of 10 on batch 10. But ultimately, what you end up with is batch 9 with an 87, batch 10 with a 79. That does put them on different tiers. Batch 9 is excellent. Batch 10 is very good. Hmm. So if you had the choice, once again, to buy one of these, you know which one to get now. So my recommendation score does depend on the batch. It's much higher on batch 9 than batch 10. Do I intend to buy another? I said yes here. I am a bit conflicted. So this will be my parting thought on this video. I want to do a blind between these American whiskeys and some other light whiskeys in general. Give me some stuff from Obtanium. Give me some stuff from Bull Run. Let's see how it compares to American whiskey. Old Carter here, because these cost $240. The Bull Run and the Obtanium are ranging from 60 to $90 for things that may be more comparable experiences here. But batch 9, though, they really did blend the crap out of this one. This one's really good. So I would be interested to see if I find a single barrel that I got on the shelf of other light whiskeys that can match up to these experiences that have a cheaper price. So that's the one thing to keep an eye out on. If you are hunting for the Old Carter American whiskey, just know that there are other brands on the shelf that are doing similar things that do cost less. I can't say that they hit as hard as this batch 9 does. This is where it scores right now, is in the top 10 for the year for me. So I'm not going to, you know, undercut that part of it. It's a very, very good pour, but it is also 2 to 3 times some of its competitors. Something to evaluate on a later date. Well, let me know if you've tried these whiskey friends. Let me know if you've seen them in your area. Let me know what you think. Leave those in the comments. But until next time, we'll catch you on the next whiskey review. Thanks for joining me for today's double episode. Goodbye, whiskey friends.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you